Okay, we are in there, man. So let me do this, man. Um, Let me share it to a couple of places, man, real quick. Give me a little second, man. What's up, y'all? We are currently live, man, over on Real Men Talk Podcast, on the Real Men Talk Podcast page on Facebook and on YouTube right now
Mm,
as we speak.
that's powerful.
Yes, thank you, baby. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Thank you. Yeah, you can sit right there. That's fine. That's fine. You can sit right there. Bless you. Bless you. Can't be doing all that sneezing though. Yeah. Let me make sure. Let me get this one shared on YouTube, bro, and we gonna get to it, man. Give me 1 second. Um, Copy that link. All right. Go right here. All right. All right, man. Yes. Action mama. Action mama. All right. Let's do it, man. Got that shared. Let me go over here and share it real quick, man. Golly, man.
Man, I need to hit the.
Mario, like, come on, man. Golly.
No, you good, man. Because tonight was the night the wife and my oldest is actually out of town, so I got some time. I done fed the other ones. The dog been out. I'm straight.
Oh, there you go.
I even got my laptop hardwired.
There we go. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and get to it. What up, world? Welcome to another episode of RMT. That's Real Man Talk. It's your boy, Standing Man, coming to you with another great conversation piece on today. And look, before we get started, I want to thank you for joining me here on RMT. So let's go ahead and going in it, get in it today. As y'all can see over here, so let me see, my right, your left, I got the host of At the Sound of My Voice. And on here today, my boy, Mario J. Man, welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the show.
Man, what's happening, Stan? I appreciate being over here, man. We have a lot of conversations, but to be on the platform, it's always a privilege and an honor for me, man.
Oh yeah, man. So y'all already know who he is. He done been on here multiple times. This last episode I didn't get it. I haven't dropped it yet. So I was saving it for a special time, but it's coming soon, y'all. It's coming soon. So I want to do this live because last week we did a live over on his platform and I liked it. And so this gonna be my episode this Thursday. But after this Thursday coming up, I'll be back to regular schedule program and I might have a couple of lives that I drop here and there for the episode. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today, we're going to talk about the power and the purpose of sacrifice. That's what we're going to talk about today. The power and the purpose of sacrifice. So, we're going ahead and get into it. So I got a couple of notes here, and to me, sacrifice in its simplest form is giving up something or someone for a bigger moment or a bigger time or a bigger place in your life, right? So when you sacrificing, to me, when you sacrifice something, it's be the greater good of moving to your future. It can be for a job, it can be for your kids, it can be for your wife, it can be for your family, or it can be for personal reasons. So that's what come to mind to me when it's a sacrifice that come into place. So, before I even get deep into it, because I got some notes here, man. I'm gonna bring my boy in and I'm gonna ask him, man, what is sacrificing to you?
Man, I had to actually think about that when you let me know a little bit about what we were going to be talking about. And I'm a man of words,
Mm-hmm.
and sacrifice to me is denying the current, the moment, the desire, the proposed need for what you feel at that time is a greater purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because at that point in time, for you, if you're sacrificing, it's something that you want, something that's in your mind or your heart, something you either worked for or you want to work for, but you're choosing to sacrifice either some steps or even the overall moment in itself where you have the opportunity to basically allow something else to happen or to give to someone else or allow someone else to reach for what they need to. For example, I have paid tuition, but at that same time, I decided that I would hold off on mine to further help that person elevate
Right.
in that moment. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
eventually different things played out and I was able to continue what I needed to. But in that moment, to me, that sacrifice, that denying myself in that moment was a better purpose for what the future will probably bring to us.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this too, since you said that. When you do do you think that sacrifice come with love? Because if I'm thinking about it, me, I think most of the time we make sacrifices for things that we love, people that we
Mhm.
love. You won't necessarily make a sacrifice um for a person that you don't necessarily care about or you don't see no future with, or things that you might could just part with. You won't just make a sacrifice for it. Just say if it's one of your co-workers or whatever that don't never look out for you, don't never do nothing for you, are you willing to make that sacrifice for them in order to help them get along? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
So
get
do
what you're
you
saying.
think do you think is love that come with that sacrifice? Do you gotta love that person, or do you gotta love what you're trying to do in order for it to be a real sacrifice?
I don't think you have to.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because I've sacrificed for people and they didn't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, I think that we first have to understand the different forms of sacrifice, what actual sacrifice for each individual person is. Like for me, what's a sacrifice to me may not be a sacrifice to you. It may
Right.
be what you call, because sacrifice is basically whoever the person is, them knowing within themselves that it is an actual sacrifice. Because sometimes, if I got $1 million and I give you $20, it's not hurting me.
Right.
But if I got 40 and I give you 20 and I need 30, that's a sacrifice.
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, and it's not always a monetary thing. Sometimes we sacrifice our feelings. Sometimes we sacrifice making a point in the moment
Mm-hmm.
because there's, timing in it is everything. And once we realize that and understand what sacrifice is us and what it means to us, you don't have to love that person because sometimes you can give of yourself when your heart says you can give this. You may not be hurting for it per se, but if you
Mm-hmm.
give it A true sacrifice in that moment will be knowing that you were going to use that opportunity for something else.
Right.
We always look at it in terms of money. We always look at it in terms of something tangible that we can give. But when we give of ourselves, we give of our time, even that friend you sit and listen to, knowing that it's excruciating sometimes to listen to this person because they sometimes don't have a positive message for you and it's draining. And in
Right.
that moment, for them, you're sacrificing time, you're giving of yourself at a cost to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you don't necessarily have to love the person, but you do have to understand what that sacrifice in the moment means to you. I don't believe it's sacrifice if you turn around and you resent it, you have a regret. It's almost like don't let anybody borrow what you can't afford to lose. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
willing to sacrifice it, knowing that it might not come back from that person. I'm a spiritual guy, so I feel like if I empty my cup and pour into other people, God is going to
Mm-hmm.
fill my cup back up. I don't look to other
Right.
people to return my sacrifice. And since I have, my mindset, my heart is somewhere else, that true sacrifice is giving in the moment and understanding that I can't expect them to give to me what I'm able to give to them because we're all blessed differently.
Right. That and see right there where you talk about like it's not necessarily money, right? And
Right.
so I'm gonna go here for a second that one of the sacrifices that we benefit from is the sacrifice that our ancestors made without them even knowing us, without them even having a connection, or even
Right.
some of them even having children. You know what I'm saying? And so, with that being said, when you have your people that sacrifice being beat, being killed, being put in jail. Now that type of sacrifice right there, like even with even with Jesus giving up his life, those
Right.
type of sacrifice for people that you don't know, that's huge.
Hmm.
Me personally, I'm gonna say a lot of my sacrifices that I made was from loved ones. It wasn't
Hmm.
from people like, I'm thinking about down the line or people that I don't know, like, hey man, I'm finna give up my life or I'm finna give up something. Just no, I'm not, no, I'm not gonna
He ain't
say
give
that.
me nothing. He ain't do
Yeah,
it for
that's what
me.
I'm saying. So what am I? Because sometimes with sacrificing is that you giving a piece of yourself that you might not get back. If it's your time, your heart, your emotions, you giving that up and you might not never get it back, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't want to do that. And so you don't get what's on the other end. So if you want a good relationship, you might have to sacrifice not hanging out with your friends as much, right? Because you want a better relationship with your spouse, you want a better
Right.
relationship with your children, you might have to sacrifice time with other people. If you want to make more money, you might have to sacrifice time with your family to be at the job, or if you own your own business, running your own business in order to accumulate the type of money or type of wealth that you want, is
Yeah.
go hand in hand. And I think some people want to have it all at one time. And when you want to have it all at one time, it just don't happen that way. So
Right.
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, bro. Now, we're working out, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So just say you're going to the gym, you working out. Now, you can go to the gym as much as you want. But if you're not sacrificing at that plate, you just going to the gym for nothing.
Yeah. Going through the motion.
You just going through the motion because you got to sacrifice at that plate what you eat, what you consume on the daily if you
Yeah.
want your body to look a certain way. But if you just want to go to the gym and see, this is what the fake sacrificing come from. If you going to the gym, you posting on Instagram, you got it on your stories, you done did a set, you drinking water, you paying your sweat, you
Yeah.
know, but you just want to act like you making a sacrifice. And
Yeah.
I think that's what social media do for us. It make us feel like we making a sacrifice because we post a little something and people like it.
Yeah.
People comment on it. But you ain't really sacrificed to do anything. It's just what you can show them and what they don't know what's going on in the background. The real sacrifice come from the background when people don't see you staying up all night. When people
Mhm.
don't see you knowing how to edit. When you started printing out your shirts, you probably didn't know exactly how you wanted to. You knew how to draw, but you didn't know how to necessarily print it out. But you
Yeah,
made that sacrifice to learn how to do that. But don't nobody know, didn't nobody know you was staying up? Didn't nobody know you had a restless night or what money that you put towards doing that in order to get where you at now? So to me, a lot of the if you true sacrifices are not made in front of people, they're
right.
made to yourself and behind closed doors.
I mean, with that, I think I think what we've done is give people permission to
Mm-hmm.
make excuses when it comes to that, and we've given ourselves permission to make excuses. It's kind of
Yep.
like that last conversation we had that people will catch on to once the episode is out there.
Right.
Um, it's like when we get to a point as to where we're comfortable in a space,
Mm-hmm.
what it takes for us to change, what it takes for us to grow is sacrifice. And
Yep.
sometimes I think we're afraid to sacrifice what we don't need because we've grown so addicted and accustomed and acclimated to what we do and how we do things that we're afraid, and we're also afraid to admit that we're afraid
Yep.
because of what we'll look like. We don't want to sacrifice the image that's out there
Yeah. Yep.
that people look at
Yep.
us as.
That's good.
And like a conversation we've had before, that whole rejection factor, I didn't want everybody to know I got turned down. I ain't even try to do it.
Right.
But
Right.
but the thing about it is sometimes in order to get to that next level, like you were saying in business, nobody knows, like you said, those I didn't have sleepless nights. Some nights I didn't even go to bed. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there are times as to where, and I will never forget this, and it hurt me to my core. Like I literally went through this whole thing, and this is where you have to understand when a sacrifice is necessary before you have to sacrifice something bigger. I was working on this account. This was back when all I did was just, design and print for other people. And it was a hometown person. And believe it or not, they gave me a lot of grace with this. At
Mm-hmm.
first, they were kind of upset, but they gave me a lot of grace, and I really appreciate them for that. Um, but I got to do that shirt. I can't remember how many it was, but it was a lot of them. They
Right.
paid me. I got it done. At that time, the revenue went to bills. So I'm like, cool, I'm straight. I don't have to make
Right.
another penny off of this. Well, when I did it, I had everything set up. So when I went through and started printing, I didn't realize I had two images. Let's say, if hypothetically speaking, the image on the left was the right image. The image on the right was the wrong image with the wrong edits for a whole nother account. It was a family reunion.
Mm.
I printed shirts, all of them, for a class reunion.
Oh, we.
And
Mm.
they were coming from out of town to come pick them up to go to a whole nother state.
Mm.
And I had to meet them. And mind you, I didn't even know until they hit me back up and say, hey, this is what you gave us. Now, I'll stop it there. At the time, I didn't think, okay, I need to not go through with this account because I was running on very little sleep. I had been
Mm-hmm.
working, I had some other things going on, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity. So
Right.
I thought that if I sacrificed this opportunity, that money, that type of situation wouldn't come back around again.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of not being willing to really stop and think about it and quote unquote sacrifice at that moment the right now, the instant gratification that it would have brought, I chose to dive in anyway. And when I
Mm-hmm.
dove in anyway, guess what I had to do? They couldn't do anything with the shirts, so they threw
Yeah.
all of them in the
Away.
trash.
Wow.
All this work I put into them, I put 2 days worth of work into them, all that work gone. Not only was
Mm.
it gone, and they couldn't even, like, they wouldn't even mow their grass in the shirt. The shirt was totally irrelevant to them.
Wow.
And then I had to give them all their money back.
Dang. Ooh.
So the money, I ended up having these bills paid, but then putting myself in a deeper hole because I had to give all that back. And of course, there was some other restitution involved because I like to do good business, and so many
Mhm.
circumstances have happened over time. And I do thank the people I've worked with, but in the process, um, not being willing to say no, I'm gonna have to pass on this. I'm gonna have to sacrifice right now for this. And
Mhm.
sometimes we don't sacrifice because we feel like we're trying to save face. Yeah, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'll be there. And it ends up
Mhm.
causing more trouble, and it ends up being more detrimental because you won't just say, no,
Yep.
I can't do that. And instead, you sacrifice at a much greater loss than you would have had you initially assessed it, known it, and went with what you knew was the right decision to make in that time. So
Mhm.
sacrificing and then not sacrificing to me go hand in hand because if you either don't or you do sacrifice in the at the wrong time, it could really cost you.
Yeah. Now, that right there is true. So that'll lead to my next point, man, is that um sacrifice is not simply about the loss, it's about a choice,
Right.
right? So within within you losing within that and the sacrifice that you had to make to get that money back to them, that right there was a lesson learned.
Man.
You see what I'm saying? There was a
Yeah, a
lesson
good
learned.
vault lesson.
Right. You see what I'm saying? That was a
Yeah.
lesson. That was a lesson learned. If you would have, you would have never had that lesson if you would have said no. And I think that a lot of our lessons come from us saying yes because our ego then got in the way, and our
Hmm.
ego make us feel like if I gotta do this because this gonna make me look this type of way.
Yeah.
But when the problems hit, then you like, dang man, I should have said no.
Yeah. We were greedy.
You
We
know
were
what I'm
greedy in
saying?
the moment. Yeah.
I should have said no because I'm thinking I got this money, I'm gonna get this, and I should have said no. And so
Hmm.
I think that let me see what I got right here. Make sure I got this right. Yeah, so I think that when we do that, not only it changes our perspective on how we look at things, but the
Hmm.
way we move in the future, it'll change because we don't necessarily look at a sacrifice of being. Hold on, let me say that right. It changes us because in the future we don't try to rush into situations just because it's going to benefit us.
Yeah.
Because we looking at the money part. But now with that happening to us, we take and say, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do. Instead of me going and rushing on every little thing, I'm gonna sacrifice this upfront. This money come on, make sure that I got myself together. That when I work on people's stuff, I understand that this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sacrifice my time and cut out space just to work on it, just to do this, just to do that. Because I'm gonna tell you what happens, man, is that when you don't sit down to perfect your craft and the things that you're doing, and then people are paying you for their service, and then
Yeah.
you go out and you do some bum service, then you be mad because you didn't sacrifice the time up front to make sure you got all your ducks in a row. Now,
Yeah.
am I saying because some people take this, let me change that up because some people take is that procrastinate and not doing nothing. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Like I ain't saying move in fear. All
Yeah.
I'm saying is that sometimes when opportunities come about, you have to learn how to pick and choose your opportunities. Like some opportunities might be too big for you right now. The
Yeah.
platform might be too big. Those things might be too big for you right now. But you looking at this a big opportunity. I'm gonna take it on. When it's a smaller opportunity right here that you could take and you can knock it out the park. You can
Yeah.
smash it, but you don't want to take that because it don't got the glitz and the glamour on there. I want
What
to
we'll
take
see.
this
Was
big. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to take this larger opportunity and go with that. Now, go ahead, bro. What's your point?
Well, see, you hit on something right there, and it was a lesson. I didn't learn it because I set out to learn it that way. Um, like my degree is not even in management and retail, but I've been in it for over 20 something years.
Right.
And when I would go into a job before, I built up my, credentials or whatever. So I was like, man, I don't want this. I want that. That's the title I want. That's the position I want. That's where I want to be. I'm not taking anything less. I had that in my head for a while, but then I went with a company at a time as to where I needed a job. I was like, look, what you got?
Right.
And I went into it and I made, let's just say I made much less than what once I got the position I wanted, I made less than what I paid my lowest person.
Mm.
And they hired me in on it, but at the time I had to take it.
Yep.
So what I learned from that was my entry point always needs to be in a place where I can learn and grow. So when they brought me in, I just dove for it. A person came up to me and asked me, like, man, why you working like that? Why you doing that? And at the time, I'm like, man, I'm working for my family. I got to get it. I don't care how much I make. Every penny counts.
Yep.
And having that mindset at the time, I didn't feel like I was sacrificing, but I realized to a degree I was, because I was giving higher pay grade effort. But then the thought came to mind when I said, I don't work for y'all. I work for the God that gave me the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And that just came out one day. And when that came out, ever since then, I would come in at a lower level than what I wanted to shoot for, but it gave me everything I needed. So I was prepared for what I said I wanted. And see, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we'll tell ourselves that, oh, I'm not going to do that. Can you sacrifice your pride? Can you sacrifice your ego? Can you sacrifice what you feel like you're owed in order for you to get back to the basics of being able to grow? It's like always remembering you're a child of God. So you'll always continue to
Mm-hmm.
grow.
Yep.
So when you're in your job, when you head of your family, things like that, you got to understand that there's still some growing to do. If you have
Mm-hmm.
nothing else to learn, you have nowhere else to go, why are you still here? And I'm a firm
Mm-hmm.
believer in you're still here because you still have more of your purpose to fulfill. So when you're here, when you give of yourself, that's a sacrifice, because when you give of yourself, you're giving time. And in that time, whether it's money or anything else, that most important thing is time, because you don't get that back. Like you said earlier, you don't get that back. That effort you put, you don't get that back the same, because if I do it just because I got it to give, it's not the same. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like true sacrifice comes from the heart, although you don't have to love the person like you asked earlier. That
Mm-hmm.
true sacrifice comes from a love that you have of being of service, being wanting to help people, wanting to be there and really make a sound minded decision to want to do something for somebody, to want to be there, to want to have this course of action. And I tell you something that happened recently. I was the crazy thing was my truck. I thought my truck was acting up. I was like, man, because I took my son home and I hadn't done this in at least 20 years, 20 plus.
Mm-hmm.
I took my son home and I was headed back. I was like, man, I'm gonna stop, get some gas, grab me a little something to eat. This little gas station him and I always stop at. And it was, I stopped there. It just started pouring down, raining.
Mm.
But well, just before it started raining, I was trying to crank my truck up. I'm like, man, what's going
I
on?
wasn't saying
Hold
that.
up, I can't get stuck here. It's just, it ain't saying nothing to me. Did I hurt her feelings? So people around me like, hey, you got some cables? Like they didn't say, do you need help? They didn't turn around. They said, got some cables. So I got a boost. And so I got back on the road. Now, mind you, anybody that's ever been at a point where a vehicle stopped for any reason, they ain't trying to stop no more. Even if they know they can just keep it running and keep going, they ain't trying to stop nowhere.
Yeah, they trying to get out of the way.
trying to get all the way home, or you straight.
Right.
So I'm still about an hour away from my front door. And as I'm driving, like I said, hadn't done this in 20 some years, and I only did it maybe once at that time. So this might be my second time ever in life doing it. And I'm driving along. This when it started pouring down raining, and once it cleared up just a little bit, I see this man walking. He walking on the side of the highway, and it's just pouring down. This is not even 2 3 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago at the most. And I'm like, man, it was a white guy.
Yeah.
Don't know him from Adam. He don't know me. And I get up before I get to the next exit. I pull over and I bag all the way up to him. And of course, he knew what was up. So he got in. He introduced himself. I introduced myself. I took him up to the next exit. And he was like, man, thank you so much. He's like, I lost my dog and just ended up getting caught in the rain.
Wow.
And I give him a ride. Now this is when you finna really get to a point. Now, mind you, if you can't see the sacrifice in this already, you ain't been paying attention.
Right. Right.
So
I'm with it.
so when I go up, he said, "All right, here's my exit." So I go up to the next exit. He's probably like, driving probably almost 6 7 8 9 minutes or so from the house, but walking is of course much longer,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the rain. So I take the exit, go down about a quarter mile, make another right. I'm like, okay, well, I see trees now. I don't know. He's like, I'm just right here. You make a left. So I'm like, okay, cool. He was like, yeah, I got a pond and everything, man. You come fishing anytime. I'm like, no, bro, it ain't gonna be like that.
Right. Right.
But so he said, that's it over here on the left. He's like, you don't have to worry about going in here because my driveway, right, it comes in that little U form where you can drive in and drive out.
Yeah.
When I pull up, he's like, man, I really appreciate you. Thank you. I look up his whole porch, and you probably seen this somewhere or on TV. The whole porch had this huge Confederate flag blowing in the
Mm.
wind on his
Mm.
porch. And believe now, if I backtrack a little bit, before I decided to stop, or when I decided to stop, before I started bagging up, I prayed. And I prayed that it was the right decision because my heart has not been that troubled when it came down to a situation like that with anybody. I'm like, bro,
Right.
I wish I could help you, but you know, the way the world is these days.
Right.
But
I
this,
ain't
but
gonna take no chances.
right, and it's one of those times where I'm like, I got to pray about this. But I stepped out on faith, but I prayed also in that moment
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, you troubling my heart right now. I got to do this, and I wasn't afraid. I just wanted to make sure that God was with me. And so I talked to
Mm-hmm.
him, then I bagged up, picked him up, like I said, flag all that good stuff. And when I pull off, I felt this wave of not only relief, but gratitude that I was in a position. And I forgot that my truck just stopped. I didn't
Mm.
know, because sometime back in the day, if you had a muffler or something like that, not a muffler, but what's the thing, carburetor, you stop too long, that thing might cut off.
Yeah.
So if something's really wrong, so I don't know. I mean, I know enough about my vehicle to keep that thing moving, but this is the first time this has happened in years, and I'm like, okay, I hope it's just a battery. But anyway, I don't know if I turn down here, if I'm gonna just get out as easy, if it's gonna stop. Now I'm gonna have to wait on some booster cables or something like that, or whatever the
Right.
case is.
Right. Right.
But after this happened, man, I felt this overwhelming gratitude for being in
Mm.
that position. I knew it was a sacrifice on my part, but
Mm-hmm.
I felt safe because I thought about where the act came from. And man, I tell you, I cried for about 5 miles.
Wow.
Like I literally cried for about 5 miles, and I was just thanking God for it. And I don't mean to take that turn with it, but man, it's like some things in your life, going back
Mm-hmm.
to the love question.
Mm-hmm.
You love yourself all the time. I don't care if going through different things, you will always love yourself enough to do or not to do something.
Right.
But when you have a love that's different from that love you have for yourself. You do some things. If it's for another person, you sacrifice yourself sometimes when your heart troubles you or when your mind gets in a space where you're like, man, I got to do something. I got to say something. And in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
under those circumstances or conditions, I felt like this was something that needed to happen. But don't get me wrong, I'm not going in there unarmed.
Right.
That's why I prayed. For those of you who understand that, you see where I'm coming from. I went in there knowing I was protected. And I
Mm-hmm.
came out with the gratitude, not only for that protection and that revelation, but I came out understanding where I stood in this world with the type of sacrifices I would have to make that he would put me in a position to make. And there's no
Mm-hmm.
hand claps, no pats on the back, no cookies,
Yeah.
no cakes, because those are the things that when you're in this world, when you're called to do it, I may never have that feeling again. But when the sacrifice is there and you know in that moment what needs to be done and you do it, not expecting anything in return, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's not only a true sacrifice, but it comes from the place that it's supposed to come from.
Yep.
If I'm going to sacrifice it, I'm not going to tell you, now, look, I'm sacrificing this for you. You need to understand this. If it's a true sacrifice, I feel like it comes from the heart, it comes out of love, although you don't have to be in the sense of loving the person the way we look at it as far as family and friends and loved ones and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the the only thing, you know, well, what you said is like, let me see how can I put this, man. I just want to point out a couple of things that you said was like,
Yeah,
for one, if let me see how can I put this. For one, if you're thinking about, okay, this is what I'm about to do. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do this for somebody. Or I'm gonna do that. And even if you are sacrificing, it's like I want to go the other way with it. It's like sometimes the time that you sacrifice is not always good. Like we
yeah,
sacrifice some of our time to like bad habits.
yeah.
Might be drinking, it might be smoking, it might be chasing women, you know, it might
Go
be
on, Pastor.
spending time with the wrong woman, and putting yourself in a situation that now not only is gonna sacrifice time, money, and a headache, high
Yeah.
blood pressure, maybe aneurysm, you know what I'm saying? Because of the situation that you in now. But
Yeah,
I think that you have to sacrifice. Maybe we be you can sacrifice that orgasm for that one time, and it won't cost you a headache down the line.
yeah,
But we don't want to sacrifice the feeling to make ourselves feel good.
yeah. That instant gratification.
We don't want to do that because, man, it feels good to go out and just hang out, be carefree, you know, um, get a couple of females, or because some people find joy in doing other things. But
Yeah,
when you sacrificing all that time doing the negative things or the things that not even gonna be won't even be positive in your life, then you go back and you look at the time now that you try to catch up. Ain't no catching up with that time that you sacrifice doing nothing. So all that time that you was doing to please your flesh, all that time that you was spending to satisfy yourself, and then you turn around now, I gotta okay, now I'm trying to do the things the right way, and I see, man, look at all that time I burned.
yeah.
Dude, man, I wasted
Well,
time on her. Only
man,
thing I
man,
got
that's
her
that's
is my
crazy.
seed, man. Like, damn. I wasted all that time and this all I got out of it. And we look at it like, oh, we put at that time when you be young, what you think is important, you'll put your time towards that. What you think is important.
Yeah,
You'll put your time towards that, and then it end up not being what you want it to be. And I'll say this too, man. While we on sacrifices, that we like to give a percentage of our time to God. We like to give God like 25%, but we want 100% of the blessing. We don't want to sacrifice our time reading our Bible. We don't want to sacrifice our time praying. We don't want to do any of those things, but we want 100% of the blessing.
Right.
But he gave 100% of his son, but we can't take out 5 minutes to read the scripture. We can't take out 5 minutes to do any type of praying or just even when you wake up in the morning. It's a fight between just waking up, either hopping on your phone. Like you better not wake up and your alarm go off and you got some notification from social media.
Yeah.
Oh man, you like you got these notifications. Instead of getting up and saying, Lord, I thank you for waking me up another day, you hit the notification. Let me see. Somebody like my pitch. Who shared it, man? Let's see what the comments say. I,
Hey,
I
hey,
need to
hey, hey,
comment
hey,
back. You know what I'm saying?
hey,
You
man.
ain't even got
The
you ain't even
funny
got the
part
stress
about that
out your eye.
is the funny part about that is what happens when it ain't a notification for you, just somebody else on your timeline, and you done went through all that,
All that.
and you just see a
But
notification because
nothing in notification for
so and so
somebody
posted a
else.
meme or something.
Yeah. And that time you so excited to get on your phone instead of spending time with him.
Yeah.
You don't want to sacrifice that few minutes in the morning, but when you got a problem, you want him to instantly come and solve that problem for you.
You know what's crazy that I've learned about that? I guess I would call it the power and the purpose of sacrifice because as I got older, and I want to say as I got older, in like the past 2, 3 years, I
Mm-hmm.
learned on the spiritual side that my troubles, stuff I go through, that's my sacrifice. Getting away from what the trouble is supposed to cause me emotionally and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Because spiritually, of course, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm in a space where I know that when I'm having those kind of issues, I'm like, oh, okay, since I can't do nothing about that, I know you working. I know God is doing something on my behalf. Something's about to happen. And depending on how big my troubles are, I know He's doing something that much greater. And it may not be big to you or somebody else, but it's exactly what I need at the time I'm going to need it the most. And so, don't get me wrong, I have my moments where I'm like, man, like, what do I do about this? Like, where do I go from here? But then I started to realize I can't do nothing about this. Like, there's nothing I
Mm-hmm.
can do. So I can't call myself upset, frustrated, because at a point when you grow, you expect trouble.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I'm nobody's Bible scholar, but I've heard this enough. And I can't quote it verbatim, but those of you who are Bible scholars, don't hit me over the head with it. Just understand where I'm coming from with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it basically says the days of man on this earth are few, and they're gonna be full of trouble while you're here.
Yep.
And once I started to realize it, and then I kept getting hit with the scripture, it's like, okay, so now a lot more of my life starts to make sense. It ain't just about living fast. It ain't just about living in the moment. It's about having a good quality of life. And I don't think a lot of us are willing to sacrifice what the world says living is in your teens, in your 20s. Man, you 30, you should be doing this. Man, you 40, why haven't you done this yet? Let me make a bucket list. We're so caught up in what the world wants from us or what the world expects or says we should expect from ourselves that we're not willing to sacrifice what the world is offering us and trade that or deny that for what we actually have to offer the world to get in return what we put into it. Because I mean, if I got grass in my yard already,
Right.
the world already offers that. What am I going to put in that grass to make it grow? What am I
Yep.
going? Am I going to plant some flowers? Am I going to plant a garden? And anybody who has a green thumb know when you plant that garden, you putting time in it. You sacrificing time, a little bit of money to get those seeds. You're
Yep.
paying attention to what's going on so you can get out of it what you put into it. And as you do that, The world is not going to say, all right, well, since you planted these potatoes, I'm going to give you apples. No, I'm making this
Mm-hmm.
happen. I'm going to put the time, I'm going to sacrifice as much as I can. And through that, that's why hard work, once it pays off, it feels so good because you
Yep.
sacrificed for that.
Mm-hmm.
When you, like you said, when you study and you go through what you went through and you finally see those results, it's worth it.
Yep.
But we're so frivolous with what comes easy that we don't realize that we sacrifice what we could have worked for what was going to come easy and leave even faster.
Mm-hmm.
So what we put that time and work in, that sacrificing, going out, being out with friends sometimes, because those true friends are going to understand, oh, he got something going on. Let him do that.
Yep.
Hey, how can I help? Or I'll step back so you can have the space and room that don't feel obligated to me. Sometimes we can't sacrifice our need to be needed. We want
Mm-hmm.
to be needed by everybody. We want folks to call and check on us. We have to have these things. And if we don't have them, it's like we can't function. But once you
Yep.
make the sacrifice of wanting or needing to have people all the time, then you start to reflect on what can I do? What can I sacrifice for me? What conversations do I need to have within myself? What do I need to put my time in order to get out of it what I'm going for? Then you end
Mm-hmm.
up with these parents that are trying to live through their children and make their children sacrifice their dreams for what they want them to do. When you didn't sacrifice to put your work
Be
in,
good.
now you want them to sacrifice to put the work in that you didn't put in to be what you want them to be.
Yep.
But you
Yep.
get upset when folks try to say something to you about being a good or bad parent. You ain't
Uh-huh.
willing to sacrifice. You want to save face, so you're gonna keep going like we had in the previous conversation. You're gonna keep going left when you know you need to go ahead and do right. Now you're
Mm-hmm.
affecting a whole nother life because you want to be selfish and not sacrifice your own pride and the lessons that you learned. You don't want to share those lessons. You want to share, well, oh, I know better now. Now I've perfected it. Now I know I can, if I can get somebody to do what I didn't do or what I was afraid to do, then I can
I
see
can.
that and I can attach myself to it and take some claim to it.
Mm-hmm. That, cause see that right there, that goes into my next little point is that success is not simply a matter of talent or luck. It often results of sacrifice. And we see that with the athletes, they sacrifice years of working out, going to practice and training in
Yeah,
order to be successful on a high level. And also, we look at entrepreneurs. They sacrifice their time, their comfort, their finances in order to build something within the future that will be able to pass down to their children and their children's children. And also with parents do the same thing. They sacrifice a lot of their time, a lot of their money, a lot of their feelings and emotions to make sure that their children sometimes have the things that they didn't ever have or
yeah,
experience the things that they didn't get a chance to experience. And that right there can lead to not only um not only a successful children, but business and let me plug this up real quick. Let me see. Oh shoot, hold on. It's the wrong one. Oh, hold on. God dang. Plugged in the wrong one. Hold on, bro.
man, that's them professional technical difficulties.
Lee. Hold on, man. I plugged
See,
in the
mine wouldn't look like
wrong
that.
one, man. Ain't that crazy?
See, what you ought to do is have like a little dog dancing, like when they mess up. See, if you have something like that, like, oh man, and then people will start looking at it thinking it's an interlude or something or an intermission.
Do this real quick because I got.
Oh man, I'm up in this thing by myself. What's happening, y'all? We have some technical difficulties on my man, Stan the Man, right now, but he gonna be back shortly. Um, but continuing on with the conversation, basically what it amounts to is you have to stay away from trying to live through other people Make sacrifices for what you believe in and understand what sacrifice is for you. Make sure you're willing not only to make the sacrifice, but you make it with an open mind and an open heart that what you put into it, you may not automatically get out of it. Sometimes you sacrifice for the lesson versus the end results that you work for. And a lot of us don't really understand that. So we have to be in a position or a headspace as to where we're sacrificing for the journey itself. And the journey itself takes us to the destination. And that destination, we don't reach it until we really reach the completion of everything that we have to fulfill in our purpose on this life. So I know for me, several times over, I've tried to figure out what my purpose was. What did I need to do? How did I need to do it? And I was like, oh, this is my purpose. I learned how to do this. Oh, this is my purpose. I learned how to do that. And I just keep studying and trying to enhance my abilities, enhance my skill set. But then just recently, I found out all of those things that I sacrificed to attain were part of a much larger purpose. And that was part of the purpose for my sacrifice at that time. That was a part of what I needed in order for me to even get to this point where I'm on the Stan the Man show. Like, how do you do that? You know, you don't get that opportunity and take it for granted. You have to understand that along this journey, it may be, hey, we know each other, we went to school, we go way back, but you got to understand, he still has to trust that he can have this person on his platform
Yep.
go live, and that this person is not only not going to taint the platform, but not embarrass, you know, him on air in a way that's like, man, like, why does he even talk to this guy? Like, what is so significant about this person?
Right. Because I
So
delete
you
it
have,
after it come
so
on.
exactly, you know, that's a
Yeah.
sacrifice in itself. And I think
Yep.
some people need to understand your presence may be a gift,
Mm-hmm.
but to some people, they have to understand what that gift represents, because you
Yep.
have to represent yourself no matter where you go, but the right way. And some people, and getting more into how we like, even how we talk to people, you know, being
Mm-hmm.
real is not the same as some people think it is,
Right.
because sometimes people aren't willing to sacrifice what they feel is, oh, I know what I'm saying, I know what I'm doing, to try to learn a little bit more about how to do it and how to say it, depending on
Yep.
where you are, what room you in. Because just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you know how to express it. Just because
That's
you
right.
think you know how you feel doesn't mean you know how to articulate it. And you
Yep.
can't knock a person for understanding that. See, a lot of what I just said, it don't go over people's heads. It's just the fact that they don't know how to feel about someone telling them how to say what they want to say, how to do what they want to do. And
Yep.
sometimes we have to sacrifice our egos, our presence, to sit back and
Yep.
say, man, maybe I do need to find a better way to say this.
Yep.
And man, I love my oral communications class when I was in college, because she said to us, you're gonna be doing a lot of public speaking. You're gonna be up in front of this class, you're gonna be talking all the time. And as
Mm-hmm.
much as I talk, I was like, man, I won't stand up in front of these people. I don't even know them like that.
Uh-huh.
I'm not running for office. I'm like, but the one thing that stood out to me, not just for the class, not just for what I was working on with my brand, because Rated Poetic wasn't even out then. I was doing some other things that I'm still doing today, but this wasn't then. But it brought me to this point. And she basically said, speak to your audience. And if you're a person who always like, man, people act like they just don't understand. Well, maybe you don't understand because there's some
Mm-hmm.
sacrifices you have to make to become the person you want to be.
Yep. It's a
You
lot.
are not the person currently that you want to be. There's still some growth. And if you're
Yep.
exactly who you want to be right now and you have nothing else you desire to learn, no other levels you want to reach, guess
Yeah.
what? You're at a disadvantage, because the
Every
person
time.
you are, you're gonna be as old as an 8 track, because you're gonna be always be an outdated version of the person you should
uh,
be if you don't
yeah.
sacrifice your ego, if you don't sacrifice some time by putting time into helping yourself grow, so you'll know how to talk to everybody. You'll know how to really get people to feel and understand your opinions, instead of
Mm-hmm.
having to lean to what you only know. Because if you only lean to your understanding when you're dealing with people, places, and things in this world, you're dealing with limited knowledge.
Yep. And with dealing with limited knowledge, that gets me to my next point, man. Is that's the cost of not sacrificing. It's a cost that come with that.
Yeah.
And one thing that I had to understand was that it's a cost that come with not only just your ego, but when you are not sacrificing, not making okay, let me put it like this because I got a couple of notes. Let me put it like this. Okay. If you refuse to sacrifice, if you refuse to sacrifice, let me see. When you avoid sacrifice, we often end up sacrificing something even more valuable in the long run. That's our potential dreams and our happiness. Now, we we sit back and we think about all the things that we can, but when you don't sacrifice, that leaves you in a space where you start to feel like, okay, now I don't feel like I'm good enough because at a time when I could have sacrificed, I didn't do it. When a lot of times when my friends was going to college and sacrificing, well, I don't want to go to school, or I don't want to go and do this, and yeah, that's cool that you didn't go do that, but now on the back end, you got to pay for that. Now on the back end for not eating right, you got to pay for that. Now on the back end for not saving your money, you got to pay for that. So for every sacrifice that you don't make, you still got to pay for it in the long run. You still got to pay for it in the long run. Even if if you even if you change your life, if you don't want to change your life, you still gonna pay for it on the back end. So let me see right now. My guy having some first it was me, now he having a few little technical difficulties, but we still gonna work through it until he come back through. And so um also embracing sacrifice. Yes. Embracing it and accepting that it's just a way of life. It's just a way of life. It's just the way that you're gonna have to do things in order to get to where you want to get to. It just is what it is. And sometimes we have to sacrifice friends. There's a lot of friends that we cool with now that we went to high school with, we went to college with. We known them since knee high to a grasshopper. But as you get older, they might not be the they might not be that same friend. You might have to sacrifice them friends because some of the some of the things that they do or they might be involved in, it might keep you from evolving into who you want to be because they are the ones with the habits or they're the ones that's doing something that's going to hinder you from being who you want to be or hinder you from being successful. You can't always be around the same environments expecting to get the same expect to get different results but you being in the same environment. It's going to be tough. So you have to sacrifice being in their environments or being around those people in order to get where you need to get to. So that's just part of it. I appreciate y'all tuning in and checking us out. And also, yeah, appreciate y'all tuning in and checking us out on the night. Um, if you want to follow us, holla at them. Real Men Talk Podcast. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and also TikTok. Also, Stan a Man. That is Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also on YouTube, Real Men Talk Podcast. Go on there, like, comment, share. If there's anything that you would like to hear us talk about on here or anything you want me to speak on, you can just shoot me a DM in one of the in one of the social media platforms, and we can go from there. Hold on, let me add my. Remember,
Man, what's happening?
remember what? Back to the stage, man. I was just
Man, I feel like I need to tap dance now.
I was
Man.
just man, I was just closing us out, man. Um, I appreciate you coming on the show, man, and blessing us once again. Also, man, you wanna how can people catch up with you, man? If they wanna do some shirts, if they wanna listen to some books, man, if they wanna, where
Look,
can the people
man,
find you, man?
the crazy thing about that is, and I tell people this. Goes back into our topic too. I've
Go
had to
ahead.
sacrifice a lot of what I thought I should be doing with my brand. Like
Mm-hmm.
I did. This was intentional. This was intentional. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not coming on another Stand the Man RMT platform without some rated poetic in the air.
Right.
But I learned that out of all the sacrifices I made, the sleepless nights, the early mornings, the no sleep at all nights, all of that
Mm-hmm.
was that the sacrifice that I needed to make was to educate myself continuously, nonstop, over the years, no matter what I was doing, continue to educate myself. And that brought me to the Rated Poetic brand. Like this is my 1865 setup I did for myself. Like the hat, you got the
Mm-hmm.
1865, you got the limited edition 1865 across here, and the colors that we represent for Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very intentional in that. But before this, I was so caught up in, oh, I got to do this. I can't miss that account. And going back to what I said earlier, I got to get this. I got to get this. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel strongly that the reason that God didn't take away this ability for me to continue to get better, although the business hasn't done what I wanted it to do, I've done really great. The
Mm-hmm.
thing is, it was a part of a larger purpose. And sometimes we have to sacrifice that time in educating ourselves, being humble, or continuing to be humble, showing that humility in ourselves, giving other people grace. Even when, we try to work with them, be around them, all that stuff, we have to learn grace. And since then, getting back to this part of where people can find me, just look my name up. Ain't nobody else name spelled just like mine. My first name. Now you'll find some people
Yeah.
with their last name Morio. I don't know how that worked out in the world, but you're not gonna find another first name Morio. And when you look me up, Morio J, you'll find me on Facebook. My Channel 82 page on Facebook is spelled all the way out. Channel CHANNEL 80EIGHTY. The word two TWO. I've since changed my IG page to the address unlimited underscore between each word because I'm working on the address right now, which is my man Stan right here. He's become a regular on that show, and we have
Mm-hmm.
some really good discussions on that. In addition to being on his platform, yes, I am archiving and saving those because once they drop, I really need everybody to understand where we're coming from. Because even with that, it's two men, and eventually we'll have other people we'll talk to because that real men need to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So understand the platform that Stan has right now, man. It's very important to the culture, very important to us as men, as us as black men as well. So you can find me on the Address Unlimited page with the Rated Poetic logo in gold on black, which is the original layout for it. You can also find me on the At the Sound of My Voice page for the At the Sound of My Voice podcast. And on that platform now, you can't take it for face value because face value will get you in trouble. I always tell guys, if you know me, no, I always tell females when they go to my podcast, don't tell them that you know the person on the podcast. Don't do that because if they think you know me, it's gonna be something different because they don't want to know that y'all sitting there listening to this guy's voice spit this poetry, you
Right.
feeling some kind of way, and now his ego is tested
Right.
because I give a lot of lessons on that podcast. I don't really consider the podcast because what Stan does and some of these other greats are out here doing. I wasn't necessarily doing that until the address came out. But at the sound of my voice, is some real thought provoking pieces. The can't take them for face value, although the context is there. There are some other connotations in there that I really want people to get. And it's all about
Well, let me
sacrifice.
break it down, man. It's the grown and sexy over there, man. He trying to beat around the bush. It's grown and sexy over there. So if you log on, it's gonna be some grown and sexy going on over
It
there.
will be
So
that
if
that
that's
that
what
it
you into,
absolutely will
that's
be.
what you want to listen to. That's what it is. What's over there?
That it absolutely will be. But man, like honestly, man, it's a blessing to be able to do it. God
Mm-hmm.
hadn't steered me in a different direction yet with the lessons and the voice He's given me.
Oh yeah.
By all means, I'm listening. But you can check that out on the At the Sound of My Voice IG
Mm-hmm.
page. You can email me if you'd like to be a guest on At the Sound of My Voice. If you're a poet, a writer, I also have scripted series on there that I myself have written and other people have performed, which is a great privilege of mine. Some really dope female poets, a couple of male poets on there that have expressed some things. But At the Sound of My Voice, just go check it out. And pretty soon, check out the address Unlimited on IG because you'll start to see some of those clips between me and my guy Stan as they start to surface.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I also want to shout out. We call him Big Smash, but his name is Ken. He's one of the cats I've worked with. I've also interviewed DC Chambers of the What the Stuff podcast. And my co-host, she we no longer work as much on the address, but she's my very first co-host on the address. That's Miss Phoebe J. That's my sister right there. Whatever she
Shout
does,
out
I'm
to
a
him.
rock with it.
Oh yeah.
So you can catch me on any of those, and by all means, if you catch me on anything, we're gonna be shouting out Stan because we need to get him back in the lab because we got this book to finish, and every
Oh
single
man, here
episode
we
we
go.
collab on, we're gonna add some more to this book because this journey is gonna be everlasting. It's gonna affect
Here
generations.
we go, man. Here
I'm
we
just
go,
saying,
man.
y'all
Here
have
we
listened
go.
to him. He already sound like the Black Dr. Phil, Farrakhan, Minister,
Oh man, it's a little
the triplet out of the Cecil Coleman,
it's
Cedric Coleman bunch. He's the triplet out of that. I'm
it's a
telling you,
little bit, man. It's a
he
little
got
bit of
some
all
Moses
of it,
in him.
man. That's a little bit of all that, man. That's off in the beard, man.
Yeah, he got some Moses in him. I'm telling you. See,
Boy.
he'll tell you before I will. He ain't
Oh,
always been as saved. He parted some red seas and made some great things happen. So now that
yeah,
he's at this
boy.
point, he's imparting this knowledge on all of us so we can go a better
Spreading it
way.
out. Yep. Spreading it out to everybody, man. But man, I appreciate you coming on here, man. After your long day and everything that you had to do,
Oh, for
appreciate
sure, man.
everybody for tuning in and showing us some love on today, man. And listen, this right here is just we did some episodes together, but we got a lot of things coming up. We're gonna work together a lot, man. Do a lot of collaborations, man, and bring y'all a lot of great content. So appreciate y'all tuning in, man, and I'll holler at y'all next week.
For sure. Peace.
Yes, sir. And this right here.